Yo, what up, UCF Nation? Just want to do a quick video on the Gus Malzahn contract extension and just some general thoughts about the Baylor game and the season as a whole. First of all, Gus getting an extension is expected. I don't think there was any world where he wasn't going to get an extension. There's been a lot of people like commenting on my post and DMing me saying like, basically negatively speaking about the extension. Why did we do that? What the hell? Dumb move, all that type of stuff. Um, if your gripe is the timing of it, because it comes after a horrible loss and it comes out in a weird time, sure, okay, whatever. It's going to last one news cycle and then we're going to forget about when it was actually announced. So that's whatever, a short-term thing. Obviously it came out, the USA Today coaches' salaries, and it was listed that Gus had the lowest salary in the Power Five. So his agent or whatever responded with, leaking it or whatever. I don't really care about the semantics of it, but let's just talk about the actual extension. So he gets extended essentially to 2027. So he'll, in theory, be here at least 4 more years. His salary has already jumped up from 2.2 million to 4 million, and then it will jump up to 5.5 million in 26 and 27. I don't really see why people are so upset about him being extended. Like, this was one of the most obvious moves. He was, first of all, he's 21-11 through 2.25 seasons. He's 1-1 in bowl games, has a signature win over Florida in a bowl game. He's been to a conference title game, which they lost, but he's been to a conference title game, and he's had massive recruiting success so far, both in the transfer portal and through high school. We've seen some major transfers come into UCF over the last couple of years, some who've been extremely successful, whether that's Isaiah Bowser, Ricky Barber, JRP, Javon Baker, Kobe Hudson. The list goes on and on and on. And then through high school, basically our first, Big 12 class, which is the 2024 class. It's ranked number 28 in the country right now, and it has 9 four-star players. That is by far a UCF record, not only for ranking in the country, first time we're ever in the top 30, and then also for the amount of 4 stars. So he has a ton of momentum on the recruiting trail, and his on-field results, 18-9 through 2 seasons, and now 21-11 currently, back-to-back 9-win seasons, a bowl win, and a conference title appearance. Like, what do you expect at UCF? Like, oh, that's not good enough. You're fired. Like, or I'm not going to extend you. That wouldn't make any sense. And if you're concerned about, kind of the future with Gus, I tend to think those on-field results are pretty good. Are there some inexcusable losses during his tenure so far? Sure. The Navy lost, almost losing to USF the game after, getting blown out by Duke, this past weekend, blowing a 35-7 lead. But every coach in the country has a bad loss here and there. There's been a couple inexcused ones, as Baylor one, the Navy one, but outside of that, UCF has under his coaching has generally beaten the teams they should have beaten, and they maybe don't have like a huge signature win outside of Florida, but he's been gaining more and more talent. The first year here, I don't think we had anywhere near as much talent as we do now and as we will have in the future. But to be upset that he's staying, I don't see why. I mean, if you're emotionally reacting to the last 2 weeks, I can understand that. They've been horrible losses, but you have to set aside that emotionally. I mean, if you think that that's just going to be the life of UCF football under him, we're going to be constantly blowing 4 touchdown leads or constantly losing games we shouldn't, like the Navy game or whatever, then yeah, I can see why you're upset. But I don't tend to think that. I think, first of all, the benefits of Gus Malzahn. He has amazing contacts and recruiting prowess throughout the Southeast. He is an amazing recruiter. He has the cachet. People respect him, and clearly the recruiting has been happening. He's put out whole campaigns together for it, keeping Orlando guys, keeping Florida guys home, hometown heroes, and that's been working really, really well. And then on-field results, he's been to a national championship game. He's been to multiple big bowl games like the Peach Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. In his totality of his career. And at UCF, I mean, I don't think back-to-back 9-win seasons is anything to sniff at or to look down upon. Outside of 2017 and 18, when has UCF had, back-to-back 9 or 10-win seasons? They didn't in 2007 after they won 10 games. Neither with 2010. 2013-14, they went 10 wins, then 9 wins. But, back-to-back 9-win seasons is not something that's happened very often. If you're upset about the talent that he's had and felt that it should have been better, okay, that's understandable. Maybe we should have had more than 9 wins last year with the talent we've had. Maybe this year we should be 4-1 or 5-0 with the talent that we had. I can get that, but bad losses are going to happen. We're not, this isn't a perfect program yet. We're not Alabama or Ohio State or Georgia where we just steamroll every team every single season. UCF is just starting to get the consistency thing going. I mean, we've now made a bowl game in 6 straight seasons. That's a record for UCF. We've had a winning record in 6 straight seasons. That's a record for UCF. So, I think we're still building as a program. Now we're in the big time. We're experiencing some growing pains, and I get it. There's no excuse to lose to blow a 35-7 lead, but to question Gus's extension in my mind is just, I think it's short-sighted and it's a mistake. With all the momentum he has in recruiting, with the pretty good results on the field so far, I just think it's premature to think that he's just so stubborn that he won't evolve and will always be a 7, 8, whatever, 6, 7, 8 win team. 2, to think that when we start adding in all this talent in the next year or two, that won't improve the on-field results, that Gus will just blow it because that's who he is. And 3, that, he's going to keep recruiting on this level. There's no guarantee that if we were to hypothetically fire him and bring in some coach that is an amazing on-field tactician and he knows exactly what to do on the field and calls the best plays, doesn't mean he's a great recruiter. Not every coach is both, and I think Gus is close to being both. He's a great recruiter and he's pretty good on the field. So I think there needs to be a little bit more faith, and I think we should be appreciative of what he's done so far. I think being upset about the extension is a little bit ridiculous. He's been a really amazing ambassador for UCF, how he's talked about UCF, how he's put it in the national spotlight, how, he talks about it glowingly. He wants to be here. And another thing is there's something to be said about stability. Do you really want to have our 5th coach in we're in 20, if let's just say he were hypothetically let go at the end of this season, because that's what people want. It would be our 5th coach in 9 years. That is not stability. The best programs in the country have stability in their head coaching spot. Look at all the top programs. They do. Yes, there's probably exceptions to the rule, but we haven't had a coach stay longer than 3 years since O'Leary. So, no, I want the stability. I think that's extremely important for UCF for its success now and in the future. You got to have a guy that can build for at least an entire 4 years when you have a full cycle of players go through and graduate. So I think it's extremely short-sighted to want him to be let go, especially when the results on the field haven't been awful as everyone's making it seem. I get we're all upset after the last 2 weeks, makes complete sense, but give this thing time. We knew there was going to be struggles. I don't care who was in the head coach this year. UCF was going to struggle. They weren't going to magically come in and just beat the crap out of every team in the Big 12. That's not how it generally works. We've said this example before, TCU, Utah. Look, it took them a couple years to build to where they are now, where they, are at the top of their conferences. As far as the season as a whole, the last 2 weeks have been devastating. We've held second half leads in both games and blown both of them. The Kansas State one felt excusable. It was on the road. against the defending Big 12 champions. Obviously, the Baylor one doesn't. You don't lose a 35-7 lead. Whether that's on the coaching staff or the players or both, sure, it probably is. But, I think the UCF can still have a lot of success this year. Our primary goal, I think, in the beginning of the year was make a bowl game, beat a couple of the original Big 12 teams, and be competitive. That was the big thing. We didn't want to come in and just be blown out and look like we can't match up talent-wise. Well, that's not been the case. We went toe-to-toe with Kansas State until 5 minutes left in the fourth, and we held a 4-touchdown lead on Baylor in the second half. So the talent is there. Maybe the depth isn't. Maybe there's some coaching issues, but that's already kind of been a success. But, if we can, we have 7 games to go. If UCF can even go 4-3, 3-4 even, and make a bowl game, I think that's a pretty good first year. So this season isn't over. We weren't going to make it the playoffs this year. We weren't going to win the Big 12 championship this year. So if those were your only 2 goals, then yeah, I guess the season is over. But to make a bowl game, make some noise in the conference, have a winning season, those are all still in play. So let's see how it plays out for the rest of the year before we judge Malzahn, judge his extension, judge the team. And hopefully it does turn around. And maybe it doesn't. But, I don't think you take 1 year sample size and say the program, the coach, they suck. So let's give it a little time. Go Knights, charge on. Let's beat Kansas this weekend.